So today's webinar, we want to talk about what marketing is and what defines traditional marketing and why that should be important in your business planning, what resources you could use to build your marketing, the tactics that make sense for you, and what you could tap into to boost your community marketing. So if you also listened in to our director, Sarah Addy-Coleman's presentation earlier this week on marketing and branding, you might be wondering why are tourism marketers providing these webinars? And here's a little insight into that. Ed Morrison is a professor, researcher, specialist with Purdue and also runs an organization called the Agile Strategy Lab. And he says the lines separating economic development, community development, tourism development, and workforce development are all blurring. That's concurred by the CEO of World Business Chicago, Jeff Malhorn, who says every tourist who comes through here is a potential business lead. Traveler attractions are the same reasons that CEOs choose a place. And here at North Dakota Tourism, we're really the lead marketers for the state of North Dakota. So what is marketing? In a very broad scope, it's the business of promoting and selling. Marketing is tied to advertising, but it's also larger than that, about creating, communicating, and delivering messages that can build demand. We often look at marketing in terms of a funnel and driving a consumer, whether that's a product, like you're selling a chair, a car, to something as important as selling our state and our communities. And the biggest part of that funnel is about building awareness. And the marketing helps drive that overall awareness. We also want to pique interest so that we can get into the consideration set and then drive that conversion. In our case, it could really be about driving traffic and people to North Dakota and our communities. So what is community marketing or city marketing? This is a difficult topic to really sort of look up, either if you're Googling it or look up in the dictionary. Community marketing isn't really a term that is well known or exists well. But the goal of community promotion is about altering some external perceptions, encouraging tourism, attracting in-migration, and attracting that business development. And I know none of that is going to surprise any of you because it's really what you've been about in terms of building community, building your main streets. So just wanted to also highlight Sarah's presentation on Tuesday that was really at the heart of branding and community branding. And I'm going to mention a few things that were in her presentation in some very broad strokes. Emily, I know, recorded that presentation, and we'll have that available as well as some other resources. But today's topic is really about traditional marketing. And even at that, I'm not going to give you sort of like the tactics that say, okay, 100% go and do this brochure, this radio commercial, because the recommendations really have to come out of what is of best interest for you. So I'm going to touch on really what traditional marketing is. And even as I touch on it, it's going to leave a few things out. And I hope that you will feel free to reach out to me if you have any kind of questions on marketing and your assets and your research and what does make the most sense for you. So what is traditional marketing? Most traditional marketing falls under one of four categories, and these are sort of, even in their own way, a little antiquated. It's print, broadcast, direct mail, and telephone. And here at North Dakota Tourism, we're not doing a lot of direct sales by telephone, which is still a tactic for some companies, but personalized customer service is definitely one of our key assets, our strengths, and something that we do promote here. There are many locations that when you call them, you are calling a phone center. And here when you call North Dakota Tourism, you're calling a person who lives in North Dakota, is from North Dakota, and can really help answer those questions. And that can also be part of your customer service. And customer service can really help kind of close that sale, close that deal. But traditional marketing is really blurring now with modern marketing. And you're going to hear digital marketing used in this term as well. And those include methods such as email, social media, and the internet, which can also be incredibly broad and changing every day. So why should community marketing be important? Well, this truly goes back to what those goals are about creating that image and that brand for your communication and attracting both visitors, residents, and attracting either the growth of business or relocation and development of business. But community marketing also helps build something great. It does build a community that is good for local economies and the state economy. It does help retain residents of all ages. And you've probably seen some of those reports about how, not only is North Dakota a top state for people to retire, we're also now one of the youngest states with, in-migration and, kind of a baby boom. I do like to joke that when my husband and I moved from Minnesota to Bismarck about 14 years ago, that's kind of when the state's baby boom started. And community marketing can also be a tool to improve a city's overall competitiveness and attractiveness. So some best practices. Again, this is going to be in very broad strokes. If a community has done a good job at identifying and understanding its brand, it won't just serve as a marketing tool, but it will actually be used to guide your decision making, almost like a citywide mission statement. One of the first things a city can do is to be inclusive. Collaboration can help with buy-in, it can help awareness and identify champions. There are numerous consultants that work in community branding, city strategic planning, and several of them that we've had speak here in North Dakota have joked about how they are, invited to a city as a consultant and are really one of the only guests in the room, that other key community stakeholders aren't there. And that isn't doing a great service on a couple of different fronts. Not only for that consultant to build their own knowledge base and help guide direction, but also because a lot of these things can't just sort of be shoved top down, that they have to kind of build from a grassroots level. And one of those key components is really about being strategic. So Sarah talked yesterday about branding and what makes a city unique. And in tourism, there are more than 100 different types of tourism, and things that grow and change every day. And there are experts also who help with a city identifying what some of its key assets and strengths are. But this can happen really at the community level too. Identifying what are some of those things that make the location unique. And it can also help your marketing when you think very integrated. One city and one brand. This has been an asset for a lot of different companies that we see. Nike is definitely one that has sort of used this one overarching brand, no matter if they're selling a pair of shoes or other kind of high-end sports equipment. And the third best practice is creating an action plan. So when you're going into thinking about your community marketing and thinking holistically about that, it's also really important to leave that strategic planning with some action steps and to be descriptive in them, to have champions, doers who are assigned to different things, to think about timelines and to think about project costs. So for us at North Dakota Tourism, and I'm just going to use this as an example, we do have a strategic planning session that happens every 2 years after we come out of the legislative session and kind of know a little bit more about some of maybe some of the projects or asks that we were assigned, when we have an understanding of budget. And then we take a look at research, any available research that we have. We reassess what our core goals are. And then we think about timelines and costs that are associated with achieving those goals. So what resources might be available to you? And I know this was one of the questions that Sarah had. I'm going to just offer up a couple of sources that I know are really easy for you to find online. And each of these sources have a wealth of information, from blogs to white papers, and I mean, they work for pay as well, but you can find some good resources out here if you just kind of need a starting place. Roger Brooks has been a frequent speaker, a very popular speaker at both the North Dakota Travel Industry Conference, and he was also a featured speaker at the Main Street Summit last year. And he's got some great videos and a lot of great information. Bill Baker, Jack Schultz, Peter Kagema, these are all speakers that work in this area, authors that work in the area of community branding, community marketing, and so they've got some great resources. The Center for Rural Affairs is based in Nebraska, and a lot of their work does center around Nebraska, but they've got some white papers and some information that we've used here, especially in developing agritourism, and so those can be of interest to you. And North Star Destination Strategies is the company that recently worked with the cities of Fargo, West Fargo, Moorhead on their branding and their north of normal branding and development out of that, doing research, focus groups, a lot of different things to kind of help those cities identify under a marketing brand. And they also have a lot of case studies from other cities that they've worked with, from Brookings, South Dakota to small communities in Alaska. And so those might be some resources that could be of interest and help to you. But I also want to point out the Main Street website and this key resources and assistance link. And what you'll find on there are links and listings offering collaboration, offering some simple information, and then perhaps opportunities for funding and grants. And those are much broader than just thinking about traditional marketing or marketing tactics. But it's always kind of a good reminder just where resources and assets might be available for you. A couple of things that I also just want you to keep in mind for North Dakota Tourism as well. We do offer those free website listings for attractions, visitor services, and events. And keep in mind that the listings that we do offer need to be of interest for visitors. Our mission here is about bringing non-residents to North Dakota. And so we don't have the listings that might be for community rummage sales, but are really of kind of those broader interest. And these events, this is the perfect time of year. I'm hoping that your summer, fall calendars are all getting set. So it's really a great time of year to make sure those listings are on our website, are accurate and up to date. And because this is when a lot of our North Dakota advertising is starting to hit for people who are hopefully starting to plan those summer vacations. We hope that there still won't be snow then. And so please get on our website and get those listings entered. Those listings also feed what is printed in our travel guide each year. They help feed our press releases. And monthly, we have press releases going out statewide that kind of highlight some of those top things that are going on in the state this month. We also have a subscriber email list, and there are about 25,000 people nationally and worldwide, collectively, who have signed up to get monthly information about what's happening in North Dakota. And those listings that are on our website help build a lot of content. That content is also used in our subscriber emails, and it's used in our social media posts. So as our social media strategist and PR team are looking for fresh content every day to highlight on, those listings and community events and community attractions are helping drive that, that part of our communication strategy. And I would also mention, if you have the ability to add photos and videos and really enrichen the listing that you have on the website, that goes even further to help with communication and getting attention. A quick plug, and I know Sarah also plugged this on Tuesday. The North Dakota Travel Industry Conference will take place in April in Minot. And the website for this is ndtourism.com/ND Travel Industry Conference. We've got the program out there and keynote speakers, and not only are these speakers talking about strengthening tourism, but so many of the speakers are talking about customer service and building, millennial participation in community. There are breakout sessions on everything from sports marketing to high-level social media and digital strategy use. And so this can be a great opportunity. Registration is $160 right now through the end of the month, and there's a great conference hotel rate too. So I would encourage you to take a look at that program, and hopefully that's something that can fit in your budget and appeal to you. So as we get into traditional marketing and thinking about how we mobilize your marketing program, if you've worked on your branding, you've worked on your strategies, and now you're getting into that mode of thinking about tactics, I apologize that I don't have the silver bullet for you, because your tactics are largely going to be dependent on your budget. They're going to be dependent on your audience. And then your tactics should be built on research. And I will always remind you to optimize what's free. I'm going to highlight a couple of those again. But we need to be thinking about who the audience is at all times. And I know it's so easy in our communities and our organizations to get sucked down that rabbit hole of thinking about, that hottest burning fire or the loudest voice in your community that's trying to direct your strategies and your efforts. And so you do need those champions that can also stay true to the core of who the audience is, what the mission is, so that you can continue to trudge down that successful path. I mentioned a marketing funnel a little bit earlier. I had a screenshot of that graphic. There are marketing funnels that can help you identify just digital marketing strategies. But this is one that can kind of help you understand again about, okay, as we're high level bringing awareness, and we talk about this a lot at North Dakota Tourism. We've got advertising out there from broadcast to email to, gorgeous photos of North Dakota that are going on, that are wrapping the Blue Line train in Minneapolis. And those are pieces that really help drive awareness about North Dakota. And that advertising uses a call to action of ndtourism.com. And we want to drive that interest, that awareness, and hopefully pique interest, and drive that to the website, where then people can continue to get more information and help hone in on how we can turn their interests into activities and keep pushing down the funnel. Now, Here at our offices, we don't have the product to close the sale, but we know that you do, which is why those partner listings and your links on our website are so important. And we're not the only one. There are chambers of commerce and convention and visitor bureaus that can also help really drive that awareness into a sale. And we think about how all of these pieces are aligned to help close the deal, get the person in your community or the business in your community. And so sometimes it helps to think about the efforts in terms of where they fit into the marketing funnel. So is a billboard awareness? And then again, what helps get into that consideration set? Is it your newspaper ad that lists all of your events that are taking place during this month? Is it, the hotels or the businesses that are listed on the website and the type of website content that you have out there that really makes a community look desirable? How do all of these pieces fit into your marketing funnel? So if you would like another kind of reference for tactics, our tactics might be another great kind of place to start. And every year we do release a media plan. And this takes place during our annual fall marketing summit. And this summit is free. It's held in Bismarck each year. And it's one in which we kind of look at some of the research that we find on Marketing North Dakota, how that research has guided our tactics, and then how we're really using our budget in the strategic way and balancing that between traditional modern marketing methods. And then we have cooperative advertising and partnership opportunities each year. So North Dakota Tourism is buying newspaper advertising space, and communities, cities can, and businesses can partner along into that. So one buy then can be cost shared in a way that can really expand our overall presence and message. And that's not just, paid advertising in newspapers, magazines, television and sponsorships like we have with Fox Sports Network and the Minnesota Twins, but there are also partnerships and programs that pertain to our sports shows and social media and influencer campaigns like those that are really important in getting maybe those key writers, authors, bloggers into the state so they can experience their communities firsthand and then kind of do some of that marketing work for us, telling our stories and getting our story out to a much larger audience. So this is also just something to keep in mind. And if you would like a copy of the media plan, I am happy to put one in the mail to you. Some traditional marketing tactics that we employ and things to think about. So if we think about, what is quote unquote traditional, it's print, like our brochures, our travel guides. And there is a resurgence again in digital brochures. So just having that can be as simple as a PDF on your website so that someone who's interested in the community can download that and take it to go. All sorts of promotional materials, like those kind of just sales sheets, sales pieces, and in our case, bigger travel guides. Newspapers, magazines, and there's just kind of an ever-growing variety in print. Broadcast TV and radio is also another great foray. It is probably one of the most expensive areas to advertise in, but it also catches the widest net when it comes to overall awareness. And so we do have a significant portion of our budget that is spent in broadcast TV, but it is also a key awareness campaign. Now, direct mail. Direct mail is something that we haven't done here for a few years. But if you read any of the research and reports on marketing lately, you'll see that direct mail is seeing a really big resurgence. And it is very popular amongst millennials. And the shift in consumer behavior is a little bit easy to understand here. I mean, it used to be that our mailboxes were full of bills. Well, now as we're getting all of our bills through email, and more fun things are coming in the mail, kind of going to the mailbox becomes fun again, and so direct mail is seeing a really nice resurgence. And I talked a little bit about telephone in terms of both sales and customer service, and that customer service again drives down that marketing funnel a little bit more. I know out of home can sometimes be considered print, but I wanted to spell this out on its own. So out of home can includes those billboards. It's also the point of purchase displays. And in your communities, you might even get hit up by salespeople who, they're selling the advertising at gas stations. You pull up to a gas station now and you've got commercials that are running on screens, or logos and icons that are right on the gas pumps. There's an ever-growing variety of those advertising opportunities that are sort of at the point where a potential consumer is. And then this very evolving marketing tactic of digital. And so the internet is such a broad term for the types of advertising that are happening online. So display ads are those more traditional boxed ads that you'll see when you visit a website. But rich media is the TV commercials, the video, kind of the richer formats that are playing on screens now when you're online. And then paid content. Now, you've probably heard the term clickbait, and maybe you are a frequent visitor of an online newspaper, and you're scrolling down and you see one of those really sensational headlines. That is a lot of times paid content. Now, we do have a lot of paid content for North Dakota tourism, and it is an incredibly effective method for us in terms of getting the North Dakota story out to a much wider audience. I'm happy to tell you that we don't use sensationalized headlines in order to motivate that click and get people to read the story. But we do authorize a variety of maybe 10 different headlines, things that will say, start your North Dakota bucket list. Don't leave North Dakota to the end. Find out why, actor Josh Jamel loves bringing his son to North Dakota. And then when you're working with a vendor, they see which headline people are clicking on the most and start to use that headline more. That is some of the optimization that happens in online advertising. That paid content and really all of the digital advertising we do, we attach a pixel to. And with one of our research vendors, that vendor then is tracking the number of clicks that are happening in our digital advertising, and then the number of conversions that we have for people in state. So I'm sure you're aware, as consumers, the more digital we are, the more trackable we are. So it used to be that finding out how much someone spent on vacation was very much dependent on a survey, and how much do you report to me that you spent on your vacation. Today, with our transactions becoming more and more a swipe of a card, Visa knows what is considered day-to-day routine advertising, and then all of a sudden you're in another state or another country, and this is out of the ordinary, and those purchases are out of the ordinary. And that data collectively, not us individually, but collectively, that data is then sold and used with countless marketing firms. Well, here at North Dakota Tourism, we pixel our ads, and if someone views a North Dakota ad when they're, scrolling through Facebook or visiting a website, that pixel or cookie lives on their phone, and we know if they saw that ad, not personally, but collectively, if a person saw that ad in, say, Chicago, and then 6 months later, that phone appears in North Dakota. And so this is technology that is continuing to be used in marketing and to help streamline and fine-tune our tactics. And digital is really all in this area that we are able to pixel, including email, including paid social. Connected TV is one of the areas that we're really looking at as consumer behavior changes and when we're watching TV and how we're watching TV. That changes advertiser strategies. And then search engine optimization and search engine marketing is also one of the really big ways that communities or any vendor, any product can get into a consideration mindset. At North Dakota Tourism, we currently are running a cooperative search engine optimization program and online advertising program. It's one that we have committed $20,000 to in order to match investments from communities. It's one of those areas that sometimes is really hard to, for a local community to buy. How do you even go about buying the best online advertising? And so we've got a vendor and some money to help support what communities are doing in that regard. So I've mentioned this a few times about really building your marketing on research. And this, what I've offered to you here are really at a very, very affordable level. What are the research pieces that you can take advantage of without much investment? And I'm hoping that you have your own databases. So what at the community level, what information are you collecting on who your audience is, who your customer is? There's a wealth of information on the Main Street dashboard, and I hope that you remember to check that. But I also want to encourage you to use your own Google Analytics. And this is, a tenth of 1% of what we look into at North Dakota Tourism. So last year at indtourism.com, the age group that was most frequenting our website was that 25 to 34-year-old age group. It was 52% female, so a little bit more female than male going to our website. We can drill down to that even further. You can drill down to that even further. So what content are women looking at on our website versus men? And then the location information. So you can get really deep into DMAs, but from a very 30,000 foot level, about 86% of our traffic comes from the US, about 10% from Canada. And then we have an international traffic presence. There were 1.2 million visits to our website last year. And then what are those top markets? Well, for North Dakota Tourism, it included the states of Minnesota, Illinois, Texas, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and the provinces of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. This becomes so important for us because this is our target market. That's where we know, we know that we don't have the budget to support national advertising campaigns. So what's the market that we can geo-target and really strategize for? And then what type of content is of most interest to our target market? And we see from the searches that happen on our website, the most visited pages that happen on our site, that family fun, the national park, North Dakota's great outdoors, and North Dakota's cities are our most searched for and visited content on our website. And I do encourage you to dig into this to really help frame up your own research in who your audience and your target market is. Your most valuable and sometimes affordable marketing tools include your website, your social media presence, your locals, and your partners. The key to successful marketing continues to be word of mouth, and that starts at the local level. Making sure that your own community is aware of the assets and the mission and the strategy can go a long way into being very successful. Your website is really where most people are finding information about you today. And so it's good to take a look at that every now and again from an outsider's perspective, or just a kind of a fresh mindset. And don't forget to also check how your website is looking on your phone or your tablet or your laptop. And then don't forget your social media channels. I know that I did this just recently. I was looking for the phone number and the hours of a local business, and I went to Facebook to check what the hours were for that business. And a lot of consumers are using, like business and community presence in that kind of customer service regard nowadays. And this is also another area where your partners can be of real asset to you. And think about who your community partners are, those chambers of commerce, convention and visitor bureaus, any attractions or community events organizers that you have working. And then some things, like I've mentioned, that's free or almost free. Think about those partnerships and think about how North Dakota Tourism and other state entities can be of benefit to you. One that I didn't mention earlier, and I just mentioned now, it's an almost free, the rest area brochures that you see statewide, that is a paid program. I believe it's $150 a year to have a brochure in those. And if that's something that's of interest to you, also reach out to our office. Now, something that I want to mention to you, because we get a lot of questions on it, is Google. So Google continues to be the #1 search engine and growing. We also look at in our website analytics about what types of technology people are using for our website. That helps make sure that we can optimize it best. And so a lot of people have asked about this. I'm going to use Wahpeton because it's my hometown. So you'll see on the the right-hand side of the screen this little synopsis about Wahpeton, and it even gives some points of interest and some other some tidbits about the city. And that's based off of me searching just the city of Wahpeton. So how is this Google Knowledge Panel created? Well, there are methodologies in technology that Google uses in order to do that. This is affecting the traffic for a lot of cities and a lot of convention and visitor bureaus and even states, because now someone searching for something isn't digging deeper and going to your website for more of that inspiration and conversion to close the sale. They're kind of getting their information fed to them right from Google. It's in Google's best interest because they can continue to advertise to people and collect, our consumer use behavior. But we do have an opportunity to influence this. I wish I could tell you that I was the expert on how to do that. I'm not. We did have a presenter on this at our last travel industry conference, and we have their speech on our website. I'm happy to send that link to someone. But there is also an expert in North Dakota, and that's Julie at Visit Dickinson, Dickinson CVB. Julie, and I'm going to slaughter her last name, Rich. That was bad. Julie has been doing some remarkable things in populating Google content for the city of Dickinson. In fact, there was just media about their efforts and how well they're mobilizing this for the city. Julie is going to be giving a presentation on that at our conference this April. And she's also I know that there have been a lot of people who are simply just reaching out to her because, maybe you've Googled your city and you've gone to the images and it's a ton of images that you don't want associated with your city. There are ways to get those removed, have those adjusted, have the tags changed. And so part of that is in that presentation that I mentioned that we do have still on our website. And Julie is also going to be offering some insights into that. And some takeaways that I'd like you to also keep in mind. Good marketing starts with strategic collaboration. So think holistically about your community. And I hope that you will use any resources available to you to build your research. Of course, we have paid research that we're doing here at the Department of Commerce. But I mentioned things just like your Google Analytics and your own databases as opportunities that you might have from a very affordable standpoint to help build some of that foundation. And using that foundation to really influence your tactics, thinking about who your target audience is, what that target market is. I know at the end of the day, marketing is an investment. And even doing things like refreshing the content on your website and staying on top of social media on a daily basis takes time. It is a resource investment. But sometimes we also can't afford not to do those things. Some dates I want to mention for your calendar. My colleague Kim Schmidt is going to be providing a social media webinar next week, and I hope you'll tune in for that. As I've mentioned several times, the North Dakota Travel Industry Conference takes place in April in Minot. The program and registration are open for that. And we've got some upcoming webinars that I know Emily is going to be sending out notices on, including tips for websites, for public relations and earned media, and for events and marketing calendars. And so I hope you'll tune in for those as well. And then please reach out to me at any time if you have any questions. I'm happy to hang on the line as long as anyone has any questions. But if there are links, resources, anything that I can send you in the meantime, I hope that you will contact me at any time. And I'm open for questions if anyone has them.
All right, I've got a couple. Heather, how would a community know who their target audience is when they're thinking about what type of marketing strategy to use? And then,
sure. I mentioned that just in terms of Google Analytics and sort of looking at some of the demographic information that Google, collects for us there. But that can also be done in some of those community collaboration meetings. And kind of finding out, who audiences are, especially for local businesses. They should know who their target audience is, and then that starts to help formulate kind of a more holistic picture community-wide.
Okay, and then a follow-up to that. So you mentioned that when a community is deciding which tactics to use, one thing that can guide this decision is picking their tactic based on their target audience. So could you maybe give a couple of examples about how different target audiences or how communities might want to use different tactics for different target audiences?
Absolutely. And I'm going to use again as my reference for that. So a couple of the different strategies that we have, one of which is the outdoors marketing and hunting and fishing. So last year we were running an ad in Ducks Unlimited magazine, and we've run ads in that magazine before, but we really kind of were thinking about some of the feedback that we'd been hearing at sports shows and how we could push that into more of an advertorial. And one of the tactics that we used last year was putting in just a little call out in that advertorial that said free hunting and fishing guide, with our toll-free number. And our phone immediately started to ring with people telling us, I saw your ad in Ducks Unlimited. I'm interested. Can you send me out that hunting and fishing guide? We hadn't anticipated that result. We knew that there was interest based off of the types of things that Mike Jensen, our outdoors promotion manager, had heard in his one-on-one interactions with customers at sports shows. And that content then drove the advertisement, and then we took that one step further with having that kind of fresh call to action that was specific for people interested in hunting and fishing. That's traditionally a mail market that is a little bit more inclined to pick up the phone and call rather than go online and click and search for the information. And so that's one area that we've used. We also have tactics that are geared towards different age groups and other interests. And so, knowing that multi-generational travel and grandparents guiding some of the travel decisions, that's a really growing market and segment for us. And so then that determines what publications we advertise in. And when we're advertising in AARP, what's the message that we're using to advertise in that publication? Like, for instance, some of that family fun, family travel, multi-generational travel. So those are a couple of ideas. And really they can be differentiated, fine-tuned, depending on what your target audience is.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone on the line?
Here's another example. Like when we advertise in Chicago. So this isn't exclusive to North Dakota. It's really a national trend. Most travel happens east to west. There's just sort of a natural national migration that happens east to west. It's very true for Midwest states, where we find most of our target audiences are a little bit to the west of us. And so when we advertise in Chicago, we're not inclined to advertise like downtown Fargo, downtown cities, those types of things, because that market is already immersed in a city. And so how we advertise to them is more the strategy is really about the messaging then, their location, the geography and the messaging. And so then we're really about catching your breath, wide open spaces, getting away from it all. You can visit national parks, state parks, and recreation areas that aren't overcrowded and overpopulated. And so you can think about that audience in terms of just the market too, and what your assets are as a juxtaposition to them.
I've got one more, well, I guess two more. I'll make them fast. So you mentioned that your brand, not only does it guide your marketing, but it can guide local decision making too. Making sure that you and your community are making decisions that kind of solidify that sense of identity and branding. I'm wondering if you could talk maybe about how this plays out in practice and what it might look like in a community.
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't worked real closely with at a community level for a few years. It's been about 10 years since I kind of went on a 5 city stop with a consultant that was working with Fargo, Grand Forks, Devils Lake, Dickinson, and Minot, I believe. And that was really a great opportunity for me to kind of learn more about what's happening at that city level. And that consultant had a great way of kind of going through everything from, how your organization is set up, who the decision makers are, how funding comes in and how funding goes out, and offering some tweaks on a ton of different levels. And so that again, it differed dramatically for each of those 5 cities. So there isn't a one size fits all in terms of developing, good strategic marketing audiences, targets. Because each city is unique, should be differentiated, needs to find kind of their unique proposition. A lot of that goes into developing that strategic plan. And what I mean in terms of that guiding so much more than just the marketing tactics, it can become sort of your overall mission statement. Hopefully that isn't something that becomes a 5-year process for a community, but it can if you really go into it thinking about like the overall strategic plan and mission statement for the city and building the markets that can support that, it becomes your it becomes your justification. When you do have that really loud voice in your community that wants to contradict every decision that you're making, when you build things on research and insights and collaboration, then you really have that foundation and the backbone to stand on for all the pieces that you're doing. And one thing that Sarah mentioned in her presentation on Tuesday was that halo effect, and the halo effect that marketing has on everything from economic development to youth retention, to the desirability of a city that has a college. The successful marketing of place has so many more positive impacts on a destination, on a community. And so that's why it's important to kind of think very holistically on it. If someone does want to go that deep, I'm happy to help set them up with some resources on it.
Perfect. Thanks, Heather. Speaking of resources, you mentioned the resource guide that's on the Main Street website. And I do just want to plug that we just finished updating that spreadsheet with a bunch of new resources and updated links. And while it's not quite ready for publishing on our website, if that's something that anyone's interested in, let me know, and I'd be happy to just email you the Excel doc of that so you can start looking through that. And I don't have any other questions, but I just wanted to open it up one more time in case anybody thought of anything they would like to ask.
Well, I really appreciate everyone joining in today. And like I mentioned, I am available at any time if someone thinks of questions.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.